Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to our May Creative Challenge webinar. I hope you are as well rested as I am. 8.5 hours of sleep last night, uninterrupted. I am refreshed. So hopefully you got just as much of sleep as I did. I normally average like 6, so 8.5. I'm like, woo, I'm moving. Um, but again, welcome to the May Creative Challenge webinar, Scaling Content Creation with Synced Objects. Some new faces, some familiar faces. Hello, April. Hello, Jean. Hello, Meg. Hello, Kendra. Oh, bye. One of my best friends, Corey Clark. Miss you already. Great to see you. Yes, it is Meg Mary's last community webinar with us. She is moving on to greener pastures. We're both extremely excited for Meg and her new opportunity, but also extremely sad for us. But Meg, so glad you made it. I sense a comeback in the future, though. We haven't seen the last of Meg Mary. I'll say that much right now. Okay, couple things. I'm going to briefly overview what our Creative Challenge webinars are. And then I'm going to distribute a quick survey. As you know, we're always trying to improve the Educate site, the Educate offerings, just to make content creation in Saros better for you. So in the chat, I've posted a survey. If you would not mind opening that up, it's just 4 quick questions, filling it out for us, giving us some feedback on how we can improve, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well. That would be greatly appreciated. You've seen a variant of this survey before, but this is a little tweaked version of it. So if you wouldn't mind, give us some feedback. That would be amazing. Like I said, always trying to improve the Educate site. Okay, so today we're going to start off by reviewing our April Creative Challenge submissions super quick. And then we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of the webinar, which is using synced objects, one of my favorite things. And then we'll wrap things up by kicking off our May Creative Challenge because it is May. If you are new to the community creative challenges that we put on each month, under the Engage tab of Saros Educate, you see this little tab called Creative Challenges. Here, you will find prompts. Each month, we present a new prompt, something cool, something unique, and something creative to complete within Saros. If you complete it, you receive an associated badge next to your name on your Educate profile. Look at Kelly's giant stack of badges. Look at Nails. So we have a lot of them, as you can see. So every month, we release a new one. This is the current one, which we are going to review, Mobile Magic. If you completed the April Creative Challenge, you'll receive this trippy Mobile Magic badge next to your community profile. It's just a fun little creative break from your day-to-day work. Get the creative juices flowing while learning how to do unique and cool things within the Saros platform. So like I said, we're going to start by reviewing our April Creative Challenge submissions. Then we'll jump into our lesson. Then we'll wrap up by kicking off the May Creative Challenge. All right. So the prompt was a pretty straightforward one for our April Creative Challenge. Your Creative Challenge this month is pretty straightforward. I think I used the same verbiage for the May one, so I'm sorry in advance. I think I said pretty straightforward twice. Pick one of your favorite experiences that you've created that doesn't currently have a mobile variant, and then give it one. That was the entire challenge. Take something that didn't have a mobile variant, give it a mobile variant. Upon submission, you got the Mobile Magic badge. So let's look at some of our submissions. Starting with Chris Kendall's. I actually looked at this one, and this was really, really cool. So he said, for my day job, we produced this experience celebrating the World Cup cities and our company research. That's really cool. We created the desktop version and then moved some elements around for the mobile version experience. So let's take a look. So, as Chris said, a really cool heat map of these cities, and with the hover state. So when you hover over these, the information changes. Really good use of hover interactions. You've got the key down here, or the legend down here, report available, report coming soon, right? So really cool interactive map. So if I give it the old F12 treatment and give it a refresh, you can see the mobile version that Chris created. Sorry for all this junk. The mobile version that Chris created for this experience. Really cool timeline. Look at that. Like, I'll show you the timeline on the previous version. I got a little excited. Really cool drop-down menu. Open it up, and then that's how you explore the different cities. A really cool transformation from the heat map that we saw on the desktop variant, right? Instead of using heat map, you've got this very easy to use. All right, let's see this. Let's see the Philly stats. That's what Gene wants. There you go. You got this awesome, extremely simple, easy to use drop-down menu where you can then explore all of that same information. I really, really dig this. And then again, down here, you've got this awesome vertical timeline. Great masterclass in oh, sorry, I could have done that from the beginning. Here's that version. Masterclass in adapting desktop content for a mobile variant. Here's that timeline again. You see in the desktop version, it is horizontal, but in the mobile version, it was all vertical for that vertical screen display. Awesome. Like a very creative way, because heat maps with hover states, like imagine trying, like this is great for desktop viewing because you have a lot of screen real estate, right? And hover states, as we know, don't necessarily work on mobile devices because you can't hover with anything because you're using your finger. So you'll have to think of a creative way to adapt that content, but still make it extremely user-friendly. And I think Chris did a fantastic job of doing just that with the drop-down menu, which we saw. These really cool scroll to position interactions up here. Awesome job. I thoroughly enjoyed Chris's mobile magic submission. Thank you, Chris. I even said, whoa, nice job. All right, now let's look at Meg's. Meg, do you have the link? Because I can't scan it on my phone. But I know which one it is. Here it is. Oh. So this is one of my favorite submissions that Meg has ever created. This is one of her first ones too. So this was from a creative challenge like 2 years ago, I think. All about The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, GameCube classic. The crazy thing about this experience, SDK for sound. How impressed would you be if I told you that Meg hand drew all of the illustrations and elements in this experience? She drew everything. How crazy is that? So what a great kickoff for our dearly beloved Meg Mary send-off. Sorry. Going full circle with probably her favorite experience and my favorite of her experiences that she's created in Saros. Amazing job. With the GameCube like UI elements and everything, like this is just nerd heaven. But all hand drawn, like beautiful. So I'm so glad we got to see this one in a mobile variant. It's so good. Thank you, Meg. You get yourself your final creative challenge badge. All right, let's look at Lisa's. A creative timeline for Siegel that celebrates our 85 years of innovation in human resources and benefits consulting. There are versions for desktop, tablet, and I rearranged the visuals for the mobile version. All right. So here is the desktop version. Now, let's look at the mobile version. Really good job, similar to Chris, of restructuring and reorganizing the layout to accommodate the mobile screen. Having the timeline left aligned here with all of the content taking up most of the screen real estate is very efficient. It looks so good, right? Like this is great. So amazing job here, Lisa. The whole Siegel group, I love you guys so much because your innovations within your experiences are always top notch. But again, like really good use of screen real estate, right? Like you have a very confined amount of space to add a lot of content. So organizing it with the timeline here on the left and all the content taking up the majority of the screen makes it feel like uncramped, breathable. You've got a lot of room for all the rich content that you've included here. It's so great. Amazing job. You get a badge, Lisa. So good. All right, let's see Devin's. As luck would have it, I had to make a mobile site for work. I haven't seen this one yet. Let's start with the desktop version. Here's the desktop version. Lots of big images, really good intro animations, on-view animations, sitemap here, image gallery. Very interested to see how Devin brought this to life on mobile. And there it is, all the way to top. Awesome full fold header section. Like that is clean, Devin. Great use of colors. Using large breakpoints here with these header sections. Center aligned this text, makes it very clean and easy to read. The sitemap has been resized and reformatted to fit the mobile version. Again, you guys are killing it with these mobile variants. So nicely organized and resized, says Kelsey. Yeah, here's the gallery, right? This is great. The map, sorry. Regional, local. There it is. So good. Yeah, incredible job, Devin. Very inspiring. All right, let's look at Sam's. I created this experience for Interactive Content Creation Part 1, our guided design course. This was an ugly static PDF that I digitized with magic. Let's look at your first version, or your desktop version. Scroll to position. You got these awesome tiles on this nice carousel. Not easy to do this, so great work. Got these awesome click states for each of these tiles here. Oh, and yeah, good navigation to go through these. I'm really curious to see how you transformed all of this into a mobile magic marathon. This grid's really cool. All right, let's take a look. Nice, full. Ooh, I like that the navigation is on the bottom. There's nothing more annoying than having the largest iPhone in your hand and having to stretch all the way to the top to push any button. The worst. So thank you for putting your navigation on the bottom. It's appreciated. Here's the projects tab. You can, ooh, yeah, these look great now. Again, having the navigation on the bottom is very user-friendly. But having these in a grid rather than that carousel works perfectly for the mobile version. And then here's this other carousel that she had with like these click states, right? So these, if I can just quickly go back here, these were these, right? And we have these different click states and they kind of carouseled through like that. But on her mobile version, Sam has put together this really intuitive layout where you keep that same like navigation where you're clicking through them, but then they rotate like that. That's really cool. All right, and then we've got down here, the grid has been reformatted and restructured, and then she's got her CTA here at the bottom. The menu is awesome. Having it at the bottom, like I said, is a very smart decision. So great job, Sam. I was struggling with the object states on mobile. Hey, fooled me. Look great. All right, Travis's from the Saros Educate team. Take a trip to the original Myers house for your safety. Wait, is this in Utah? I feel like this was filmed in Utah. Let's. Okay. So 4 and through 6 were filmed in Utah. Okay, I knew some of them were. So this was one of Travis's experiences from a previous creative challenge as well. I don't remember which one it was, but he hits that like mid late 70s horror vibe perfectly. SDK similar to Megs to play the music. Always Halloween Town in Travis World. So this was his desktop version. Very eerie with the music, right? Here's the mobile variant of it. You guys are killing it with like the hero section of all of these. Travis, how many Michael Myers masks are in your house right now? Too many, he says. Yeah, great reformat. Everything. And what I love about what Travis has done here, if I freeze it right here, this is a perfect screenshot to take. He has left enough margins on the side for his navigation to fit nicely in here. This is covered up just because the preview's got this scroll bar, but if this was viewed like on a published device, you wouldn't have the scroll bar over his nav. But look at just how well spaced everything is here. So everything fits nicely in between his two navigation sections. Very good job. Also that on view hide interaction for this navigation. So I'm assuming there's probably a hotspot somewhere here with an interaction that says on hide or on view hide this navigation. Boom. Slick. Dig it. Good job, Travis. Last but certainly not least, Kelsey Coker from the Saros Educate team. I redid my creative challenge from January 2024. The original desktop experience was created an editor. Oh, was this the artist of the month one? I believe it was. Let's look at the desktop version. Taylor Swift. Who would have thought? There she is with 8 fingers. And here's, oh, I'm excited to see how this got translated. Look at that. That's a really, I like the animation you got here with like the double exposure. That looks really cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Really good job of reformatting this header section. Like that is clean, and putting the text below the image rather than on top like you had in the desktop version. Completely redone. Like this is a good example. This is a good example of tap to reveal. Nice. I don't know any of these. There she is with one leg. Who is Taylor? Don't know. Tap to read more. I like the expansions and like the taps, so you're not overloading your design. But almost a full reconstruction of the site for the mobile version, and it looks great. A mobile magic badge to you, Kelsey. Thank you for everyone who submitted those. They were incredible and awesome to view. So loved it. Amazing job, everybody. You get the mobile magic badges. And now let's quickly move on to what you're here to learn about. Creating synced objects, in particular for their build along, a synced nav bar. It doesn't have to be a nav bar though. Synced objects can be used for anything. So before we get into creating synced objects, I think we need to lay a little bit of a foundation of Saros content types. Within Studio, there are, everything is content, right? Images, text, embedded objects, videos, shapes. It's all content on your canvas. But there are different foundational types of content that you'll interact with differently to increase the scalability and the efficiency of creating content in Studio. So I have color coded them here based on the color of their bounding box when using them in Studio. So you might have been working on something and see that maybe your one piece of content has an orange bounding box where everything else has blue, or maybe one has green. Here's how it works. So your standard content indicated by the blue bounding box in Studio is just your regular content. You take something, you put it on the canvas, there it is. You can change it, you can edit it, you can resize it, you can retype text, whatever. Anything inside a blue bounding box is considered standard content. It's the regular stuff. Any changes or edits you make to it will only pertain to that instance of the content. So if I have a text box and then I duplicate the text box and I edit the first one, the edits don't translate to the second text box. That's just standard content, the stuff you use 80% of the time. Synced content, on the other hand, is similar to standard content, but it is primarily used or only used when you are working across multiple variants, right? So we talked a little bit about this last month when we were talking about mobile variants, but synced content, text, images, videos, and embedded content that when updated on one variant will also update on another variant. Standard content, you update it on one variant, it doesn't translate to the other variant. So if I changed a text box on a mobile variant, those wouldn't translate to the desktop. But with synced content, those edits would translate. So that makes editing across variants much more efficient. And then synced objects, not to be confused with synced content in the orange bounding box, have a green bounding box. And they are a special type of grouped content that, when updated, will sync across all variants, but also all instances or copies of that content. So this is a tool within Studio that is great for repeating elements, such as like maybe you have the same CTA button across multiple pages, and you want to change the CTA in that button. Instead of having to go and update it across every single page, you update the synced object in one place, it'll update everywhere. Same with headers, footer sections, hero sections, anything like that. So that's just kind of the basic foundation of content types within Studio. Standard content in a blue bounding box, synced content in a orange bounding box, and then synced objects in a green bounding box. So I have a very simple demonstration of that, and then we'll get into a synced navbar. I have 3 pieces of content here. If I go to my mobile variant, here I am in my own experience. I have my standard content. You can see, I'll zoom up even more so you can see. I have my standard content here in my blue bounding box. I have my synced content on the toolbar in the inspector, or sorry, the design panel in the inspector panel. You can see the sync toggle. That means it is synced on. And then I have in the green bounding box, my synced object indicated by the synced icon in the layers panel. So if I came here and I edited my standard content and I just said join now, it only updates this single instance like I was explaining. So if I go to my desktop version, it did not update, right? It still says join educate on desktop, join now on my mobile. But with synced content, as long as it is synced here, if I went here and I said join now, and then moved back to my desktop, it updated across variants, right? So that's how that synced content works. You can always toggle off synced content, but just keep in mind that it's always, when you're creating mobile variants, it's always really important to have your desktop version essentially done and then create the mobile variant, because you can't add new synced content. It's only anything that was on the page when the variant was created. But that's beside the point. My synced object, which we are here to talk about, right? So as I said, any instance of this synced object will update when I update one of them. It's more so a group than it is an individual object. So it can include just one element like this text box, but it's still encased in what is essentially a group. So when I double click on this green bar will show up here, right? And it says editing synced object. I can always click exit to get out of it. But when I go in here, you can see in the layers panel, I'm now essentially within a group. I've selected, whoops, I was doing too much. Reload. I've selected the text box here. And when I change it to join now, you can see all variants have updated. I can make as many as I want across as many pages as I want, and they will all update together. So that is a fundamental understanding of how the synced objects work. Before I joined the Saros team, I was a Saros client, and we used Saros to create essentially learning modules and e-learning courses in some way for a large variety of clients. And what we would do is we would create essentially a vanilla version of the experience, And then we would charge the client an insane amount of money to just customize them in their branding, their look and feel, their fonts, and then we would send them the published versions with their new branding. So you can imagine there is repeating elements across all of those. And so using synced objects to update branding, update wording, verbiage, that kind of stuff, reduced our content creation time like tenfold because we didn't have to go through every single page and update every single element. A lot of those elements, repeating elements, could just be synced objects. So we updated them on the first page, and then we just have to go back and just update the standard content on individual page. But utilizing the synced objects saved us a ton of time. How do you tell something to be synced? So that's what we're going to get into. Great segue, Misty. 10,000 synced object points for you. Let me open this experience. One moment. All right, so here we have this microsite. Let's pretend I work for a company called Tandem. I'm a consulting group, and I've created this really quick microsite. It's like 3 or 4 pages, right? It's a page about what we do. All right, we've got these really awesome quick interactions here. Very well designed microsite page on what we do. And then we've just got like a locations page, similar to Chris's mobile magic submission with these awesome hover states. Here's all of our locations. And then I've got this last page, which is the team. So this is used when you're working with the sales team of Tandem. And here's the team. You click on these, you've got your bios. So just a quick microsite of just 4 pages. Very well designed, but when going back and forth, you're literally going back and forth. So what this page could use is some navigation and some synced navigation while we're at it. So I've constructed a nav bar. I'm going to actually hide all of these elements just so we can focus on the nav bar itself. So in my side nav folder, which I've titled it, I have 2 other folders. We'll talk about this one first. So this is my base bar, and that's everything that you see here. So this is how I've organized this, because it's important, and I'll say this right now, that you can't have groups within a synced object, but you can have folders. So make sure to ungroup your content before syncing them together, but you can still organize them in folders. So in this base bar, I have my hotspots, as you can see here. I'll just turn those off for now. I have my nav UI, which is my arrows and my hamburger menu. I have the hover states for each of these. Oops, sorry. You can see I've got just a square in here. You can set it up however you'd like, but for this one in particular, we just have show hide for these different squares. So when someone's hovering over the menu, over the next arrow, over the back arrow, right? Okay, and then I have my base. So that is essentially what makes up my navigation bar. And so then I have this other section here, which is menu open. So this is what appears when my menu is open, and it looks like this, right? So when someone clicks on my menu, that opens up. I have my hotspots, as you can see here, that goes to each go to a different page of my microsite. And then I have my different labels. I've got the hover states, which are, open this one up. They're just bars. So when you hover over, when you hover over one of these, a bar will just show up like that, just to indicate that it's being hovered over. And then I have the base once again. So how this works is when you click on the menu item, the whole like open version of the menu then appears, right? So let's look at my hotspots one more time real quick. So here are my hotspots. I open these up, and these ones down here, my interactions, just to kind of like thoroughly go through this. On hover, I'll show that hover square that was in here, but on click, I'll go to the next page, right? So then on my toggle hotspot, this is an important one that I've set up here because I think a lot of people overlook a very simple interaction, but it's a very big one. So I have the menu open folder content right here, right? Boop, 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 boop. So I want to show that when I click this. And so a lot of times people will say, they'll go to interaction on click and they'll say show my hidden folder. But then you have to add a second hotspot along with it that then hides the hidden folder at the same time. But you can just simply replace that with one hotspot, which is toggle. So that will toggle on and off a folder. And so I select the toggle and I say menu open and then save interaction. So if I haven't totally screwed it up, I come here and I click that, and then that will open. You can see my hover states like such. Ta-da. So that is the bones of how I have set this up. Yeah, that'll save you a lot of time because, like I said, a lot of times we see users will have a hotspot to show something, and then it hides that hotspot itself, but then shows a separate hotspot with the reverse interaction of hiding content. But using the toggle saves you some effort and some time. So now that I have all of that very well organized, I take the entire bar itself, and then to answer Misty's question, down here in the corner is this little icon called synced objects. You probably can't see it because I think it's bleeding off my screen share, but I click that, and then my icon here in the layers panel changes, and then my bounding box also changes to be green. The function has not changed at all. Like that, see? Boom. But the navigation itself, or the object itself has changed. It is now a synced object that I can change. So if I take this and I paste it on all of my pages, next page, ta-da, I now have the same nav bar across all of my page. Oh, wait. Oh, I ruined the grand reveal. Hold on. Also, like the zoom, like annotate button is right over the layers panel, like icon in Studio. So I am like threading a needle to try to get it to show. Here's the real grand reveal. So now I have this nav bar across every single page of my experience. And if I go back to my first one and I open, and I open this up, I go in here, and let's say in here I wanted to change one of the labels to say, instead of what we do, I could have it say, oops, let's just hide these for a second. I don't know what, we'll just change it to anything. Who we are, even though we have a team one. Let's pretend that we don't have a team one. Exit that. Oh, wait, gotta hide this real quick. Exit. And then I go back to my preview, reload this real quick. And then on any page that I have this experience or this menu, my update has synced. Very, very cool way to update content at scale. Does it always show that red highlight on your page? I always thought it was an error if it was red, but I didn't know what to fix. We just keep you guessing, Meg. That's the main thing. It's called Sero's gaslighting. Just to ensure that you've quadruple checked your content. All right, so then the main thing that I want to point out, which Becca has also pointed out, is because the current version of synced objects use groups, if you are designing with accessibility in mind, that is the one caveat I would probably avoid using them. Let's see other questions. Okay, same one. Okay, any content creation questions regarding synced objects? Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. It is super handy in instances like I pointed out. We see them used a lot in buttons as well. Like I said, like if it's an event landing page or it's like a registration page, updating in one place updates them everywhere. And that just makes the experience like, so oftentimes we'll even see a multi-page experience, and maybe it's not a microsite like this one was, but it's different versions of the same page, which will be used for maybe different target audiences in an email campaign or something like that. Different wording, different value props, whatever. But we want to drive all of those users to the same location while generating leads. So though the content changes per page, the RSVP button stays the same. So really handy tool, really not that hard to understand, but will go a long way when scaling your content creation. Can synced content be added as asset cards if used in different experiences? Like in the asset library, Corey? That's a good question. Let's find out. I'm going to grab this whole thing. And it doesn't look like currently you cannot. All right, Travis beat me to it. Yeah, but that is a good point of feedback. We'll send that up the ladder because I think that would be super helpful in scaling content even more. Good question. Any other questions? I see April liked the toggle interaction. Can you sync content after the fact, or would I need to delete and repaste the navbar? Yeah, you can sync it after the fact. Thanks, Santiago. That would be, it would be nice. I think I feel like the asset library and synced objects would go hand in hand. So thank you for that feedback. Cool. All right, that's what we've got for our lesson today. Think on it and think about the different ways that you can employ synced objects through your experience or experiences in project workload. Scale that content, make it easy on yourself. And now let's talk about our May Creative Challenge, which, as you might have guessed, has a lot to do with synced objects. So enter Blitz Board Games, 50 years of family-owned fun. The outline. The Creative Challenge this month is straightforward. I knew that I had said straightforward in the previous one and this one, and I didn't realize it until I was reading the previous one earlier today. So there it is. You might not have noticed, but I called it out just so you can't call me out. The Creative Challenge this month is straightforward, but it will require some creative thinking to accomplish. Your challenge is to create a 3-page microsite for Blitz Board Games, your new employer, or you can do one for your actual employer if you'd rather. Either way, good for me. Blitz is releasing a new line of board games for the summer season, and you've been tasked with making a microsite for the sales team to use on calls with retailers. You have full creative control to design the microsite however you want, but you need to include the following: a cover page, which includes a Blitz board game logo designed by you, a company slogan, and a background image or graphic, anything like that. Outside of those 3 requirements on your cover page, add whatever you want. And then second page is a product page for Blitz's 4 new board games, completely conceptualized by you. So if you love board games, throw them in here. So we need an image of the box art for each board game, the title, the quick description, and price for the board game, but also a button and a pop-up combo for more information on each game. So you can see, the price, the name, the image of the box art. You click more, pop up. Here's a little more information on the board game itself. So a product page that has detail on the 4 new board games. They can be whatever you want, conceptualized by you. And then an about page detailing Blitz's 50-year family-owned history in creating board games for all age groups. Blitz was founded by Papa Blitz in 1965. Is that right? Is that 50 years ago? 65? I don't know. 75. Okay, close enough. And it's been handed down generation after generation. It's a touching story. Proceeds go to charities, that kind of stuff. And then most importantly, to tie it into our lesson today, your microsite needs to have a synced navbar on each page. What your synced navbar looks like, where it's oriented, does not matter to me. You have full creative control to design this microsite for Blitz board games however you would like. So outside of those requirements, you can include any other features, pages, content blocks, anything that you want. You can go wild with it. And if you need help creating the required creative assets, the logo, the board game covers, that kind of stuff, feel free to poke around with Studio's native AI image generation tool. We've got a documentation written by Travis right here. It shows you how to use it. Check that out if you need some help. So upon submission, you will receive the nav badge. It's a nav bar within a synced object bounding box. Clever. You'll have until June 12th, so you have an extra week for this one. So usually it's the first of every month. Scheduling things, we had to push the next Creative Challenge webinar to the week after. So you have until June 12th to complete the challenge and post your published experience in a comment below right here. Then we'll hold our next Creative Challenge where we'll celebrate your submissions and hand out the nav badge. So have fun, take risks, excited to see what y'all create for Blitz board games, 50 years of family-owned fun. All right, that's what we got. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions about synced objects, nav bars, anything like that, feel free to ask us. You can always ask a question here in the discussion section of Educate. And actually, while I'm at it, there's one thing I want to point out before we wrap up, since we got a couple extra minutes. It's this new section of Educate that we released last night called Interactive Guides. Here in the Learn tab of the sidebar in Educate, you click on this and you come to this new landing page with categories. Within each of these categories, you have lists of content. And these are all interactive guides that visualize and take you through a interactive tour of how to do different things within the Sero Studio. We have interactive guides for everything, and we got a bunch of them. So come through here if you need some help on how to do pretty much anything in Studio, and you can find a interactive guide for it. So Alex and Kelsey on the Educate team worked hard over the last week and a half to put this big old library together, and it looks great. So you can also searching here will only pull results from the interactive guides library. So that is super great. But go check it out. Awesome new handy way to learn and learn quick. So interactive guides. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for sticking around. Excited to see what you create for the Creative Challenge. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. See ya.